Hello and welcome to episode 1378 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, February 21st. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm really happy because after about 20 years, I think I'm finally going to be able to play for the Yankees.
Right? I wouldn't have to get rid of my stash. You don't have to get rid of your
Mhm.
beard. They finally got rid of that outdated, dumbass policy. I'm sorry. That shit sucked. That was
Yeah.
not like I just was not on board with it. I know, it's tradition or whatever. You're not going to win me over on that. And it sounds like you're on the same side there, that it just like, it was so antiquated. Like, what's the point? It's like, we don't got to go super deep on it because at the end of the day, it didn't really affect us that much. But like, it was just like control for control's sake, right? Like telling the players what to do just to do that. Like, who gives a crap? So I'm glad it's done. I wonder if Devin Williams is ticked that he shaved his beard, and then they change it like 3 days later. But he can regrow it out, and now you can actually have facial hair and
Who
just.
do you think the player was that caused this? Because I mean, Devin
Maybe
Williams shaved his face, so
maybe it
like,
was Dev, or you're
like
saying somebody that like stood up to it. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I would assume there was a player that was just like, "Listen, I'm showing up with a beard, so if you guys don't want me there, just let me know." And they were like,
Yeesh, we need our guy. I did see a lot of chatter about Dev. Like people were posting pictures. He's unrecognizable, this, that, and the other. So I don't know. I don't know if let's see here. Goldie not really known for facial hair. Neither is Belly. So I don't think Max Fried. He's a baby face. So I don't know. Maybe it was Dev where he's like, I'll do this, but this is really stupid. You guys understand that, right?
"Yeah."
And maybe that got him to change it. So anyway, ridiculous. Glad it's done. I just didn't really see the point of it ever, really, but definitely like 20, 30 years out of date. But let's get back into the hot corner here. No news since yesterday. At least, I guess, let me check this morning to see if anything came across the wire. I don't believe so. Speaking of the Yankees, they did extend Aaron Boone, but that doesn't really affect us fantasy wise. Oh, I guess, a little minor signing here that I will mention because it's your boy, Andrew Heaney, going to the Pirates
I did see this. Yeah,
for a guy with a persistent home run issue.
it's a
There
good
are
spot.
worse places to go, right? So this is not actually terrible and could have a modicum of deep league playability. Now, I know you'd moved on from him in recent years, probably because those home runs kept bludgeoning your ERA. But are you maybe back in? He did throw 160 innings, which was his second best ever, and had pretty good skills. 17% strikeout minus walk, 4.28 ERA, 1.25 WHIP. If PNC can bring the homers down, it was a 1.3 last year. If we can get to like a 1.1, even a 1.15, which would round up to 1.2, maybe there's pockets of value here. A two start at home that includes like, a couple of mediocre teams. Unfortunately, can't face his own ball club, but there could be something here for your boy Heaney, right?
I mean, I think so. Like, we know that the skills can be good at times. It's just
Right.
the homers are a big problem, and then the injuries are a big problem. He showed some health last year, so that's a good thing. And Pittsburgh probably plays as one of the best possible parks for him. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I think at least as a home streamer. Actually, now that I'm thinking about this, somebody gave me a link to a website that had like the entire schedule broken up like on a spreadsheet. I should actually see what
Ooh.
they.
While you're
Um,
looking that up, I'm looking up PNC's home run park factor for the last
his
3 years here. Go ahead.
his X home run at PNC last year would have been 17 when he gave up 23.
And it's
So
the third best park in baseball.
yeah,
Oracle, Oakland, which obviously isn't around anymore, and then PNC at 84. So this is the right landing spot for Heaney. Again, I know you've been a fan. Still probably mostly DCs right now, but if he does secure the job, we got him penciled in as the number 4 right now. I could see him as a reserve pick in like a Maine. I
yeah,
really don't think this is too bad here for Heaney. So I'm glad I checked trade rumors there because I'd seen it last night, but then I forgot to put it on the rundown. So Heaney, solid move there. Definitely a DC pick, moving up my board. And like I said, some fringe main event potential there, which is 15 teams, 30 rounds. All right, let's get back into the hot corner.
Pittsburgh
And
opening up with a Florida two series in the road, so they get
oh, I'm
Miami and then Tampa Bay.
I'm
So
definitely open to that. Obviously, the Steinbrenner Field, the minor league stadium could be a little dicey there, but I'll take a
mhm.
Marlins start. I'll eat a Rays start to get a Marlins start there if I have to do a two-step there with Heaney. Ideally, I could just take the Marlins start and move on, but yeah, I
Oh,
like that.
and then they're oh, no, so it looks like they, if I'm reading this right, they have it's their home versus Miami, and then
Okay,
they are at Tampa Bay, or it's Tampa Bay.
I'll take anything against Miami, you know that.
Yeah,
But I will say this. Go
they
ahead.
get a Cardinals series.
Which doesn't bother me either. Okay,
Yep.
here we go. They got no. I see 4 at Miami to open the season,
Okay.
which is good because he's penciled in right now as the number 4. We'll see if he gets it, but at least it's not a 3 series because I don't think Heaney would pitch at that point because it's going to be Skeens, Jones, Keller, barring anything happening in spring, and then 3 at Tampa Bay, and then a home set against the Yankees and Cardinals. Which let's see, he pitched here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He would get the Yankees at home. At least it's at home, but that obviously would be a bit dicey. So yeah, I think Heaney's got some heat. I'm
Yeah.
interested. All right, back to the hot corner we go. Tier 4 again. If you want to follow along, you can pull up Lucas Kelly's third base rankings. In fact, he just updated them based off of the Bregman and Turner signings, and so you're getting the freshest rankings going right now. We got Matt Chapman, Ryan McMahon, Nolan Arenado, Luis Rengifo, and Jordan Westberg here. I think we've discussed Westberg and Rengifo, right? Because
Yes.
I think
Yes, we
Westberg
did.
would have second base. So
Second base. Yeah.
the other ones are definitely fresh here. So let's just start with Matt Chapman, your boy. Locked him up, ready to go. Obviously, one thing I don't know that if we hit on when we were discussing Adames being signed or anything about the outlook of your ball club this year is that left side of the infield is spicy for the pitchers. So Webb, Ray, Verlander, I'm not in on Hicks, but and Harrison, they're getting some juice over there. If guys are hitting it to the left side, those are automatic outs. Now, Fitzgerald, we've said enough about him. We don't need to rag on him again, but we're not huge fans. And then Lamont Wade Jr. at first, I'm neutral on that, whatever. But it's a good infield defense there. What can Chapman do for an encore? He was splendid in his first year with y'all last year. 27 homers, 121 WRC plus, and where the hell did 15 for 17 on the base paths come from, Justin? Prior to that, his entire career, he was 11 for 23. Chapman was a nothing base stealer, and these new rules, this is the kind of thing that we can
Hmm.
see here with these new rules. It can click in and somebody goes 15 for 17. That's a nice little boon to his fantasy value. We don't know if we can bank on it though. So where are you at on Chapman this year?
I mean, it was absolutely insane the amount of stolen bases Matt Chapman had. Not just as like an individual player, but he made up, and I was just doing the math on a calculator because way too early for me to do math in my head. He made up 22% of the Giants' stolen bases last year.
That's the craziest part. Y'all don't run, and
Yeah,
here's Matt
and
Chapman
he
going
stole
wild.
15. So, uh, I mean, I think this is just one of those scenarios in which, and we talk about this all the time. Like stolen bases are not just an individual stat, right? These are it's a team construct. There's we saw it with like Jesse Winker last year, right? A guy who's
On
never
the
really run.
Nats. Yep.
Uh, but the Nats, told guys, hey, as soon as you get on base, just start moving, and we're going to generate offense. And so I wouldn't project that again from Matt
No,
Chapman.
no.
But I mean, it is nice to know that that is something that is possible in that regard.
I'd take 7, 8, even from
Yeah.
Chapman, because again, that's something that you were never really expecting. And if he can spike another double dig, awesome.
Hmm.
As we always talk about, we do not worry as much about power for right-handers going to San Francisco, and that played out. In fact, his 216 ISO was a 4-year high, split between Oakland, 2 years with Toronto, and 1 with San Francisco. So again, he did not struggle necessarily. I mean, I'm not looking at the home road splits, but the composite was such that his power was still there. Are you banking on that? Because now it's 3 of the last 4 years, literally exactly 27 homers. You putting him down for mid to upper 20s for Chapman?
Yeah, let's see. I put him down for 25 home runs, 83 RBIs. Um,
That sounds solid.
yeah, I think that's exactly who Matt Chapman is. I think he's a super solid bat. Now, I also want to say, like, I think there's a good chance he can kind of pretty much repeat last season outside of the stolen bases, but even maybe make some gains
Yep.
in like this batting average. He had the best in zone contact rate of his career, I believe it was. Oh, second best, but the best since 2018. It was 84%, which is right below league average. Uh, like that's really impressive. Like first year on this new deal, I think a lot of the pressure is going to be off for him to have to like really go crazy, but maybe he just settles in as a guy who can hit 250 or better with 25 to 30 home runs. He's going to volume. He plays virtually every day.
Yeah.
So yeah, Chapman is like one of those guys that I think doesn't really inspire a lot for your 10 and 12 team leagues because the upside isn't massive anymore. But in your 15 team leagues, especially, like he is about as solid as they come as a CI.
A big fan of Jung Hoo Lee, who we'll obviously talk about in the outfield. He's back. Adames joins the team, and Lamont Wade Jr. is an on-base machine against righties. So you mentioned that you had 80 some RBIs projected, which actually would be a 6-year high. Well, 5 years
Mm-hmm.
if you get rid of 2020. And I agree with that. He had 78 last year, and I think there's reason to push it up. Now, I'm not necessarily going to push his runs to 98 the way they were last year because I don't necessarily believe in the rest of the lineup. But I do think that Chapman could even chase down 90 ribs. So again, bottom line is we like him. I think the price is fair, and I got no beef with what's going on here with Chapman. Let me get that price, by the way, since I referenced it. 136 ADP. No issues with that whatsoever.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
All right, let's move over to Ryan McMahon in Colorado. He's just been kind of punching the clock on quality, capable seasons lately, right? Never really jumped the level that people would want because we're always projecting greatness from Colorado players, hoping that the park will take another level. But it's just been 20 and 65 with a 240 average basically for the last 4 years. He did spike 86 ribs back in 2021 with a 254 average that year. But then the last 3 years have really just been a metronome 20, 23, 20, 67, 70, 65 on the ribbies, and 246, 240, 242. He'll be 30. More of the same from Ryan McMahon.
It's weird to think Ryan McMahon's finally 30.
I know.
Like,
Been around forever.
yeah, I mean, this is what year 9 for him. So, yeah, I think this is kind of just who he is. He's a low 20s homer guy with like a 245 that you could pretty much pencil in as kind of an everyday player. He doesn't have second base eligibility anymore, which is a little bit of a bummer, but uh, he's pretty solid, just spectacularly boring.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect for 15 team leagues. I think in 10s and 12s, I'm a little less interested because the
Sure.
upside isn't there. But in 15s, like I like these guys that you can pencil in and kind of know what they're going to do.
But I will say, even as a reserve, because he goes at pick 273, that is not expensive for McMahon.
No.
So, as a reserve in your shallow leagues, there is still a world. Again, we're not projecting it. He's 30, he's established who he is, but Coors is still Coors.
Yeah.
He could spike a magic run, right? If he rips a 340 BABIP, which would be a career high, and a few extra balls go over the fence, it could be a 28, 260, 85 type season. And then all of a sudden he has the mixed league or the shallower league viability. Don't project it. It would just be a reserve guy for your third base backup for McMahon. But I'll take what he does in the 15s all day at pick 273. No beef there with him. Let's shift over to the guy that he basically replaced at third base with Nolan Arenado, who is still in St. Louis, and it's looking more and more likely that he's at least going to start the season there. We know he declined the deal out to Houston. Still don't really understand that. I don't know if he's got like beef with the cheating scandal or something, because I don't know how that wouldn't have been a great fit for him to just try to pull the ball and get his homers back. But he went 1671 last year, still had a 272 average, so that's not bad. Plays amazing defense, plays every day, but the shine is coming off a bit on Nolan Arenado here. Pick 219 for the 34-year-old. Keep him in St. Louis right now because that's where he is. What do you like for him to do this year?
I mean, I think he's another one of these guys that is kind of just a steady Eddie kind of dude. I think the homers bounce back at least a little bit. I have him for 20 home runs.
Yeah, I agree
And
with that.
I mean, I would love to see him get out of St. Louis. I was a little surprised myself that he didn't want to take that Houston deal, especially, you know, the potential to go to a team that is kind of a yearly competitor
Way
for
better
World
than
Series. So
St. Louis, for God's
yeah.
sakes.
Um, and I do wonder like how much of last year was kind of inspired by just everything that was going on in St. Louis, like very
Hmm.
similar to like the Rangers. Like I feel like the whole Rangers team is going to bounce back. I feel like there's a really good chance like maybe the whole Cardinals team is going to bounce back. I just feel like there was like this malaise over
That's
Bush,
exactly the word I was going to
yeah,
use.
like over Bush Stadium, where it's just
Yep.
like, yeah, I think at some point like it's hard when you're a team that expected to be a World Series contender and you're battling for like fourth place in your division.
Right.
Um, and so I don't feel like I mean I don't feel like Arenado is washed at this point. Like
I
I
don't
know
either.
I know the stats didn't look good last year, but and you know there's some definitely warning signs that hey like we're starting to see the bat slow down a little bit, but ultimately a lot of stuff was still intact. Like he still had a very good zone contact. We know he can hit the ball hard at times. I'm not like overly worried about Arenado, especially because defensively we know he's going to play every day.
Right.
So
And it's
maybe he's
covered in the price, the
yeah,
issues, right? 219 for Arenado. So yes, the issues that you might have with the declining bat, I think you're getting the requisite discount to take that on with the chance for the upside. And look, they deserve to be clowned for doing literally nothing in a winnable division. Literally nothing, y'all. They did not sign a major league player this year, this offseason, nor did they make a trade. Like they didn't do a damn thing. But by the same token, I will say this is still a compelling lineup. Mason Wynn, Alec Burleson, Wilson Contreras, Brendan Donovan, Arenado, Nootbaar, Jordan Walker, Gorman, Ivan Herrera. Like they need some guys to step forward. Walker, Gorman specifically. Nootbaar got to find some health. Like there's some ifs, ands, and buts. But it's a compelling enough lineup that like I understand why they want to run it back. For me, I think they should have done something with the pitching piece because Gray, Fetty, Michaelis, Palante, Matz, that's where they fall short for me, and should have done something. Even a Nick Pavetta, who like I'm not super enamored with, but Bush could have maybe helped cut into his homers or something. I can't believe they just completely sat on their hands though, and I know we've ragged on them enough, but like that was the part that just didn't really make sense to me.
well, I think there's a long term plan there. They've got a number of guys in the minor leagues, a bunch of which are kind of like close to ready.
Matthews and
That
McGreevy specifically, Quinn Matthews, Michael
yeah,
McGreevy specifically, going to be chasing down Palante and Mats as early as this spring.
and Tink Hence is probably going to
Yep,
start in AAA. So like, I think part of it is like and they've got like more guys in Double A. Like I think part of it was like, listen, we don't think we're going to be competitive this year. We're trying to shed salary, but we're really looking for a quick turnaround, especially with the pitching. And so I understand why they didn't. At the same time, like you said, like this is like a super winnable division. Like
so winnable.
I I did that whole series on TikTok where like I was talking about like teams that like didn't make the playoffs last year that could exceed expectations and kind of surprise this year. I covered the entire division because I feel like any team
Exactly.
can win this division.
Even the
So
Pirates, like
yeah,
I keep saying that any team can win, and people will throw in except the Pirates. I'm like, what are you talking about?
no, I think the
They have an
Pirates. If
ace and like burgeoning aces behind Skeens, and the offense is light, but they're like Mariners East, so they're going to
if
be
the
in the
if the
mix.
if the Pirates had gone out and gotten Willie Adames,
Oh my
are
goodness.
are we not like or really especially like they've got Bubba Chandler coming up
Mm-hmm.
like this could be a really good team if they were willing to spend money, but that's the entire division. So yeah,
Yep. Yep. It really is the entire division. Did they all get on the phone for like a central division meeting and say, we're not spending this year, right, guys? Right.
yeah.
And then just nobody did a damn thing.
And then the Cubs are
Unbelievable.
like, we're gonna do a few things.
Yeah. We're going to try to win this because you guys are just leaving the door open.
Yeah.
So we're going to make some big trades and a few moves here. And yeah, I think that makes them the favorites right now. All right. Renhefo, we did discuss. I didn't get to go back and listen this morning to see what we said, but he's a solid, if unspectacular, utility guy. He only has second and third, but he can add stuff in season as well because they can move him around. He did have 24 steals last year. He did lose a lot of his power. He's not like a power monster, but he went 17-16 in 22 and 23, and then just six. Oh, wait, that was only in 78 games. Oh, wow. So the 24 steals in 78 games. Again, we might have discussed exactly this thing on the second base. And again, I'm sorry for not going back and listening, but that's a 50 pace. Is there any world where Renhefo drops a 50 berg or even like a 40 berg on the steals?
I think there is if he's healthy. I think it all comes down to health. I think he's
Mm-hmm.
finally going to get full time playing time, and he's going to have an opportunity to like because it's Ron Washington in
Right.
Los Angeles, right? Like, and
Run
Ron
and run.
Washington loves to run. So yeah, I absolutely think like he could have Renifo could have a massive season right here if he stays healthy. So
And speaking, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, but that's kind of a big if at this point. Like
And
it's
speaking of big ifs, the guys around him, Taylor Ward,
Mhm.
Mike Trout, Jorge Soler, those three also need to stay healthy. I get that, right? So it's very pipe dreamy right now. But you can envision a world where he scores a ton of runs too.
Mhm.
You know, Ward should be on base for him, so he can get some RBIs that way. But then Trout and Soler behind him, if they can both play like a buck 30, then Renjifo's runs could be pretty substantial. So I'm pretty intrigued. I think that's 151 is not nothing. Like that's a real price because of the steals that he got in 78 games. But second, third means corner, middle as well. Very good flexibility. I'll pay that price for Renjifo.
Yeah, absolutely. Like his only Renivo's only competition at second base for second base at bats is Kevin Newman.
Yeah, because
Like
Christian Moore is not ready. I
yeah,
don't really think like he could be the Volpe in spring where he just forces his way if he goes bananas, but I don't really think. And listen,
no.
this has been an organization that is not shy about pushing their prospects, so I do understand that. But Neto's eventually going to be back, and so they'll have like I guess Tim Anderson would also be fighting Renhefo for at bats once Neto's back. But who's worried about that? Nobody. I think
Yeah.
Renhefo's secured, and pick 151. I think is totally
And
fair.
Renivo can also go to third because like Yoan Moncada
Right.
like isn't like the dude. So
Right. I hope I didn't just completely contradict myself from the second base episode. I'm like, I hate Renhefo and now I love him. No, I feel like I'd be consistent there because, this is pretty obvious what he can do. And it's not superstar, but it's some decent potential there. And then
yep.
Westberg, we discussed back at second base as well. Bottom of the order in Baltimore, but at least it's in Baltimore. I think you were a little negative on him, if I remember, because of the hype being a bit high. He's picked 93. He
Yeah.
also second, third eligibility, and it is 20 games at both, so it is the qualification everywhere. But that is a high price point. So I think we were a little bit more tepid on Jordan Westberg. Do you want to expound on that in case somebody didn't listen to the second base preview?
I just don't know that there's anything super special about Jordan Westberg.
To go
I
top
think
100, right? Like that's the thing.
yeah, like I think Westberg is like a fine accumulator,
Hmm.
but we're talking about a guy who I know they're going to move the walls in and all that stuff, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, a
But
bit,
like
but not all
a
the way
bit,
back
like
in.
yeah, it's not going back to like previous Camden, and we don't know yet if he can volume because he played while he was healthy. He wasn't healthy all of last season,
Hmm.
and you need accumulators to volume.
I don't get
I
this price point. I really don't.
I think people are just excited for the potential of like a full season from Jordan Westberg, which I mean let's see
Top
where's
100 though?
yeah I don't know like I'm taking a lot of these guys going after him
Right.
and
Even now, listen. This guy I'm about to say has his own issues. He literally did not play last year. I'll take McLean though at the same price point. I just think the
yeah
upside's richer.
absolutely
I'll take our boy Semien, of course. Now that's second base versus third, so maybe I'll compare some third basemen since we're on the third base preview here. But let's see. After Westberg, we know Jake Berger. We've been talking about
yep
him. Vientos. We're going to get into Royce Lewis here in a moment. Chapman's much cheaper. Bregman's much cheaper. Renhefo is 100, or excuse me, is 55 picks cheaper. I just don't see it with Westberg here. This is
I
a
don't
steep price point for somebody that's batting bottom third in an order too. It's a good order, but it's still bottom third. I do not get that price point there. And again, I hope I was consistent with that in the second base preview. Let's move into tier 5. We got a couple of first basemen that we discussed, Isaac Paredes and Alec Boehm. We can reiterate some points on them. Royce Lewis, Eugenio Suarez, and Josh Young. Paredes, I don't recall if he was in Houston. I think he was, because that was a relatively early move. So I feel like we would have already known. Plus, we would have discussed the move anyway. Let's see. It was on 117 was the first base preview that he was part of. Let me go to his BREF page and find the trade for Paredes and see when that occurred. December 13th. Yeah. So he was fully established as Houston's third baseman. We definitely said, hey, Crawford boxes. He's a super pull guy. I think it's going to be fine. They got him penciled in as the number 2 hitter. I don't know if we had discussed that yet. In between Altuve and Alvarez, that's pretty hot. How do you feel about Paredes at his price point? Because he goes 198. That seems pretty fair to me.
It's super fair. Like, and this stadium is like built for him. Like, this
Yeah.
is like I want to say like his X home run was like 28 in actually double check that as I talk. 28 in Houston. He really struggled in Chicago, but Chicago
He
is
did.
actually the worst park in baseball for him according to like the
Absolutely.
X home run. So
Yep.
like it's really nice to see him kind of get out of, not just get out of Chicago, but get over to Houston. It was a 26x home run when Chicago was 13.
And
So
he
it
hit
is like,
19 total.
yeah, so it's like twice as effective for him as a home park. I love that. I just think that he's the perfect guy. He's super cheap. Like, he's definitely a target of mine as a CI or as a backup at first or third if I don't get kind of the guys I'm looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paredes only has 17 games at first, so he is a true third baseman in most leagues. But if you play lower eligibility, that's why we discussed him on the first base pod. Just to circle back real quick, because Brett had a comment
Yeah.
earlier about our Central Division chatter. You would still take every lineup except the Pirates in that division. I think so. I do think so. That is their flaw, and that's why I'm calling them Mariners East right now. They don't
Yeah.
quite have the division or the pitching yet, but it's possible, especially once Chandler gets in there, that they can have this just amazing starting pitching that is not going to get supported very well by the runs. Yeah, Paredes over Westberg, even if they weren't 100 picks apart, at the same price. Like, you don't have to pay top 100 for Paredes, but I'd rather do that than Westberg. Like,
Yeah.
I'm still just super stunned by this Westberg price point here. All right, Alec Boehm we discussed. Again, first base, definitely not his best position there because he doesn't have the power. And he hits 280. He hit 15 homers last year, 20 the year before, but 97 ribbies in both. He just kind of punches the clock on good batting average, modest power, and good RBIs because he's part of Philly's lineup. You expect more of the same from the 28-year-old Boehm?
Yeah, just a steady accumulator type, like very boring in 10s and 12s. Like, you're probably not drafting Alec Boehm. He's a much better real life player than he
Right.
is a fantasy guy. But
Yeah.
in deeper leagues, that makes sense because he's got 3 straight seasons of at least 600 plate appearances. So he plays every day. Like, I just, for me, like in fantasy, like I just don't think he has enough juice outside of your deeper leagues.
Pick 182 is a fair price, but
But
Isaac Paredes is 198.
right
I'd
there,
just
yeah.
rather take him. I'd just
Yep.
rather take him. So Bohm is fine, especially if you get him closer to his max, which is pick 200. So if Paredes goes and Bohm is still there, I could be okay to pivot, but I'll probably go elsewhere altogether. All right, it's time. Time to discuss Royce Lewis. If you've been listening to this pod for any amount of time, you know how I feel. I'm obsessed with him. I love him. He's amazing. On a per plate appearance basis, he's a very good player. But those plate appearances are not high. He has 605 total over the course of the last 3 years. So that's a full season basically. And he went 33, 104 with 6 steals and a 268 average. I don't know if he can stay healthy. You don't either. Like, we can't project if he can. But where are we at this year with Royce? Are you paying the 128 price point?
Yes.
Hell
I'm doing
yeah.
it. I'm
Hell
doing
yeah.
it. Like,
He's in, baby. We got him.
okay. And I know a lot of people are going to be like screaming at their podcast player, whatever that is, your phone, your iPod shuffle, your
Your
whatever.
phonograph.
Yeah. You and going, Justin, you are like the risk averse guy.
Right.
You are the guy who says don't draft these guys who get injured. There becomes a point in which the gamble is worth it. And there isn't a player in baseball that has like that has much greater upside than Royce Lewis on a per plate appearance basis.
Right.
And like last year, people were taking this gamble after really not even seeing him play at
Don't
the
say
major
people.
league
You
level.
can just say Paul. You don't have to say
Paul.
people.
People, but it wasn't just you taking him in the third round, taking him in the fourth round of drafts.
I took him fourth, fifth, with confidence, and of course, day one he ran the gamut of the Royce Lewis experience. Homer, injury.
Yeah, exactly.
It was unbelievable, dude. But yeah, now he's dipped down. It looks like the market is saying we got to tap the brakes a little bit. And 128, 127 price point, I got no problem with that.
It's just the perfect time to take a gamble. It really, really is. Now, I will say, if it appears he's healthy entering spring, as soon as he hits like 3 bombs,
it will rise. Yep,
it's gonna rise. But that being said, like I've got a draft tomorrow.
So do I, and I think we're in the same universe.
Yes,
Barf,
in
right?
the Earth universe.
And I got Tarf.
And if I'm drafting there, and I am in, and I'm picking the middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Picking the middle. If I'm sitting there at like 115, or 125,
so that's gonna be like your 8th round pick.
If I'm sitting there in 8th, 9th, 10th rounds, I'm taking Royce Lewis. Like I think the upside is so warranted at this price point, because I mean he's had 605 career plate appearances in the majors. Those plate appearance numbers turn out to be 33 home runs, 6 stolen bases, 81 runs scored, 104 RBIs, hit with a 268, 327, 497 triple slash.
I mean, that is the upside, and it's a pipe dream to get 152 games.
Absolutely,
I understand.
And I'm not expecting to. Now, if you make this gamble, you need to be very, very careful the rest of the way.
Right.
But
back him up with one of these steady eddies that we think is like a bankable $145, $150 games at third base. So you've got something there, especially in your deeper leagues like 15 teamers, so you don't have to go to the wire. But there's plenty of guys I like to do that. So I don't mind. And I will say, as bummed as I was last year to lose him and have the issues, and his batting average did fall. He only hit 233. We should acknowledge that for Royce Lewis. But it is, as much as that was a bummer, I was backing him up. I wasn't some idiot who was going in thinking that I was going to get 145 games. So I had backups at the ready for him. And so I didn't really suffer, even though things didn't go well with Royce Lewis. So yeah, I'm back in as well. Love the guy. Think he just has legit superstar upside. And if he does spike 130 games, which isn't even a full season, that still bakes in a month of missed time, he's going to pay off on that price point easily, in my opinion.
I mean, I projected him for 27 home runs. Where is he? 27 home runs, 6 stolen bases, a 254. But I gave him 500 plate appearances. My projections have him at 500 plate appearances. That's in those numbers.
Splendid.
Yeah, and Brett says if Jazz can do it, so can he.
Right. Well, and again, you don't just take all these guys because every once in a while they spike healthy seasons, but you maybe pick your favorite of the group. If you've liked these guys that have failed to stay healthy and then and you're looking for them to finally spike it. So don't pair Royce Lewis with the other guys that have had that issue. Yeah. But if he's your guy, then feel comfortable going for him and then trying to get that 500 plate appearance season.
It's the cost associated. When people were still drafting Jazz prior to this season, right? They were still taking him as like a top 60, top 75 pick.
Right. His price, as we talked about last episode yesterday, is never really dropped.
Yeah. It was always, you were always paying for it. And like, especially in your 10-team leagues where, you're only going to draft 220, 230 picks, right? 130 for Royce Lewis when there's plenty of space on
McMahon
that
going to be
board.
on the waivers if you
Yeah,
have to replace.
it's going to
Just
be
go get.
plenty of guys, yeah, to go and get. Now, if he gets hurt during spring training, then like
We'll
I
pivot.
completely I back out, right? Like,
Yep.
but
Yep.
um,
Absolutely.
as long as he's healthy, I'm taking the gamble, and I will figure it out
Rice,
in
Rice,
season.
Rice, Rice,
Yeah,
Rice, Rice. Let's go. I'm excited. Okay, so from a young emerging guy to a bankable vet. Now I will say it was a tumultuous season last year for Eugenio Suarez, and this is one of those ones where if you cut him,
yeah,
do not be
I
kicking
did.
yourself. Do
I
not
am.
be blaming yourself. I don't think you can though. Seriously though, process versus results.
Yeah.
80 games of a sub 600 OPS. In what world should you have been holding a Eugenio Suarez? This is one of those classic Scott Pianowski situations where he talks about if you never have a cut you regret, you're holding too long. Because frankly, if you held him that long, I think it was a bad process. You got lucky that
Yeah.
he turned it around in the second half, but you shouldn't have been holding a Eugenio Suarez that long in any league. Not a 15-teamer, probably not even an NL only with a sub 600 OPS and sub 200 average through 3 months. However, he did turn it around. He was magical. His final 78 games, he went 312, 357, 617 with 24 homers and 69 ribbies. He basically put up a season in those 78 games. What the hell happened there with Eugenio Suarez? It was a classic tale of two halves there for him.
Um, I think he was mostly just unlucky.
Right.
Like,
I mean, the BABIP was low. The homers weren't leaving the park,
yeah,
and
just
then he caught fire.
and then all of Arizona caught fire. Like
Right.
this is like the antithesis of the St. Louis situation, where like down the stretch, and I think for some people it was kind of overlooked. But I've heard some like national media actually talk about it recently. Like they were just amazing in the second half.
They broke through their malaise because they had a
Yeah,
first half malaise. We've talked about the World Series hangover, but they did break through it. And honestly, the only thing is they ran out a little bit of steam and they went 13-13 in
yeah.
September after 18-9 in August, 17-8 in July, and 16-11 in June. If they had just been a little bit better, they'd have been, back in the mix in a big way last year.
I think
Go ahead.
for Suarez specifically, like I think there was a little bit of a change of the approach. Like, hey, I'm going to stop swinging outside the zone a little bit more. I'm going to take a few more pitches, not a ton more, but just a few more. And I think that just really helped him tighten it up. He had an increase in his own contact from 83 to 85% in the second half. His O swing, actually, he swung outside the zone more. Interesting.
Oh,
Huh.
so he was saying, I'm going to go chase these pitches that I think I can do damage with, and the
Hmm.
damage was coming. I'm trying to
Yeah.
get his homer to fly ball splits here. Okay, I got him. Yeah, so you talk about being a bit unlucky in that first half there. An 11% homer to fly ball for somebody like Suarez is pretty low. He is a consistent teens guy who spiked
Hmm.
some 20 seasons back in Cincinnati, but even in place like Seattle, he had a 19%, a 13%, and he had 11% through the first half there, and it spiked up to 23%. So the fly balls started leaving, the base hits started coming through too, which you don't normally expect. The fact that he also hit 324 to buoy
Yeah.
the average all the way back was also amazing. So obviously you don't want to have that same sort of split where you have to eat it for 3 months. Now, how do you approach something like this? If he starts terribly again, let's say again, sub 600 OPS, sub 200 average, do you hold through it because of this year? Or is that a mistake because guys don't usually rebound that beautifully?
Wow. He has got some pretty big first second half splits for his career.
Oh, really? So this is a consistent situation with Eugenio Suarez.
And he's a 261 hitter in the second half. He's a 237 hitter in the first half.
Does he hate cold
Um,
weather like me?
yeah, like even the month to months, like he just gets better and better as the season goes on.
Oh my God, it's like almost, it's not a complete straight up arrow, but it's three. April, May, and June are all 700 something
Yeah.
OPSs. And then July, August, September for his career are all 800 something OPSs. That's crazy. So maybe you do hold with a guy like this.
Yeah. I think you probably do.
Okay.
Especially if like the underlying numbers are still pretty good. Like I
Right.
mean, they got better as the season went on, but like the underlying numbers were still fine. So I think you just hold. I think you like, or you don't draft him at all. You let someone else drop him.
I was just about to say that, especially in your shallower leagues.
Yeah.
And when they cut him in June, then you swoop in on Suarez and you get the juice down the stretch. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And you talk about the numbers being in line. They really were. The plate skills were fine. I mean, he had a 29% K rate, but that's in the range of outcomes for Suarez. He actually had a 10% walk rate. And so I do wonder, was he being too passive? You talked about how he did
Yeah.
start to chase more. Maybe he was letting go of pitches that were out of the zone, so they were balls and everything. But he's like, I
Yeah.
could have done something with that because I've got
Mhm.
the range to get to that. And then he just went back to his old approach and popped off. Okay, that's
I
really
think
interesting,
part of it too was pitchers started attacking him more.
right?
Like pitchers,
Saying like we can get him because he
yeah,
sucks
'cause
right now.
the zone percentage went up almost or over 2%, and like that is like we talk about when we talk about zone percentage, like 1 or 2% is a lot. Like
Right.
it's in this context. So, um, yeah, I have no problem drafting in Eugenio Suarez, but I'm also like, hey, if I don't get him, I may pick him up in season because he just seems to be a second half guy.
Yep. I'm definitely going to keep tabs in shower formats. If he starts slow and gets cut, I will be there to take Suarez and hang on. 178, totally fair price. But again, Paredes going after him. I'm probably still going to lean Paredes, but I don't
Yeah, I
mind
did too.
Suarez there.
Yeah. Hmm.
All right, let's continue on here. Our next guy, oh, Josh Young. Okay. I think a guy that you've liked in the past. I know I have. And, things didn't go very well last year because of the injury. He got hurt, ended up being limited to just 46 games, so not a lot to take from the season. 7 homers, 4 steals. But coming off the big 23 homer, 266 breakout, where he also played only 122 games. So injuries have been persistent here with Josh Young. I think we have to bake that in. But I think the price does that at 214. How do you feel about Josh Young going into his fourth season?
I
Or
feel very
third full season. Sorry, go ahead.
I feel very similarly to Royce Lewis, where I think there is a lot of upside in this bat, and I think this is a perfect place to take a gamble. Obviously, don't take the gamble on both of them at the same time. I only projected him for 500 plate appearances. That came out to 23 home runs with 75 RBIs. But like this is a good Rangers lineup that I think got better, and Young is someone that I think they really have a lot of belief in. So I think he's going to get plenty of playing time as long as he's healthy. He supposedly is coming in healthy to start the season. So I want to see him in spring, though, because he did deal with a wrist issue towards the
Right.
end of last season. And I want to make sure that, wrists can often sap power. So I think he's definitely a guy that I'm not drafting this weekend more than likely, just because I want to see him play in spring games before I make any sort of move there.
I think that's completely fair with Josh Young. We talk about something that we like. Usually, I think we say it more with pitchers, but he ended the season on the field. So he did get back and was playing at the end of the year. So even though it didn't go well, at least he was back and doing some things. I'm with you. I'm gonna pause on Young right now as a player I've liked. I do want to see a little something in spring. And again, just not to keep gassing up Paredes, but I'd rather just take him or even wait on some of these deeper guys that we're going to get into if I don't already have my second, third baseman by then. And then if in spring he looks good, even if the price elevates a little bit, like let's say Josh Young goes out, hits 3, 4 spring homers, wrist looks healthy, everything's going good, and he gets into the Suarez Renjifo range, which would be between 156 and 180. I'm okay with that if I'm seeing a healthy Josh Young. 214 right now. If you want to take the gamble, if he wants to be your big injury gamble, I can get behind that. All right. You know what? We are doing tier 6 today because it's only 43 minutes in and we've
Let's
got time.
go. And we
And
only have like 4 guys to really discuss.
right, because a lot of these guys have been discussed multiple
Actually,
times.
I think we also discussed Joey Ortiz. So like,
Oh yeah, we did. So Willie Castro's been discussed at every position ever. We're not saying any more about him.
yes,
We've talked about him. Michael Garcia, Connor Norby, Brendan Donovan, Jamer Candelario, Christopher
and
Morel.
we talked about Morel too. I think
I think we did too, but where would that have been?
second base.
Okay, damn. There's a lot of second base, third base guys. Now this is
Yeah,
part of,
we talked about. I just looked it up. We did talk about Morel at second base.
this
So
is part of casting the wider net. And Ortiz was at second as well.
yes,
Okay, a few of these guys I do want to say some different, more things about, like Michael Garcia, but we have Willie Castro, Michael Garcia, Connor Norby, Brendan Donovan, Jamer Candelario, Morel. Joey Ortiz and Max
And
Muncy.
we talked about Candelario at first.
Oh, we did. Wow, this is a total Muncy is the only new one? Did we
uh,
did he not have first base?
I'm looking to see. No,
I'm
Muncy only
actually
played third last year.
okay.
So
So he is fully new here. Okay, cool. But I do want to talk some Michael Garcia here. Again, Castro, we've discussed to death because he's literally at every damn
it
position, which
can
isn't
I
bad.
just say though, this is why third base seems deeper than it actually is, right?
Right,
Because
because these guys are going to get scooped up at other positions and
yeah,
thin it out. That's a good point. It's kind of like
like
fake depth or deceitful depth.
we've talked about we will talk about 10 guys today that have different position eligibility that you may, that other people are going to grab because they're multi-positional flexible or or they just want for other positions as well. Like this is why like third base goes from like, hey, like this doesn't seem so bad to like, oh my God, no, I don't want to start this guy at third base all
Right.
year.
Right. And, they're not all like the 5 game eligibility, too. If you are
Yeah.
playing something like NFBC in 20 games, a lot of these guys have standard dual or triple or quadruple in the case of Castro eligibility. But let's start with Michael Garcia, because frankly, I just don't remember what we talked about with him over at the second base position. This is the guy I really liked last year. It didn't come to fruition, but I do think that there were elements still. He still had 37 steals on 39 attempts, so you got some speed there at the very, very least. But he hit 231. He had a pretty wretched line, 231, 281, 332, which was a 69 WRC plus. This is a situation where that's not nice. 7 homers, 84 runs was nice too, given that he only had a 281 OBP. He's just 25. That was his first full season. He had a 515 plate appearance season the year before, which is pretty full, but then 626 this year. I do still think there's more in the tank here. I think a 268 BABIP played a big role for Michael Garcia. I think he can be more of the 272 hitter that we saw in 2023. I don't want to project like some big power surge because I don't believe that.
No.
But I do think he can get double digits. I mean, he had 7 last year. You just need a few extra to go over. But if I can get 10 and 40 here with a 260, I have absolutely no problem paying pick 214 for that. I like Michael Garcia's price point with second and third eligibility. What say you of 25-year-old Michael Garcia?
I don't know. This feels like people penalizing Michael Garcia for their bad expectations. Like you thought this was going to be a superstar. He quote unquote disappointed. But did he really? I mean, at the end of the day, like
Not with the
yeah,
SBN runs, right? Like that's
yeah,
actually a pretty good output.
right. And like he was unlucky. 268 BABIP was a bit of fluky. I think that is going to regress back to the mean.
Right.
Progress back to the mean.
I know I think it is still regression. Math nerds, you can tell us the proper phraseology there, but I know it sounds
I feel
weird to
like
say
Zola had a
regress.
tweet about this at some point, and I
I
can't
think
remember
it
what he said.
is. I don't know, because I know like when you're saying something's going to go up, you want to say, isn't it progression? But either way,
Yeah,
we expect it to go back up. And I want to point out, based on the auction calculator last year, he was the 9th best second baseman
yeah,
and
he
the
was
10th best
good.
third baseman. So, and this is with a 231 average, folks. The 84 runs and 37 steals, that was legit. And 7 homers, that's not moving the needle really, but it's not a 0 either. And so, if you believe that the 268 BABIP is BS, which I do, I believe Michael Garcia has enough to hit through that. I really like where he's at here. I'm actually getting even more sold than I was, I think, on the second base preview here.
Yeah, this is like one of my dudes. Like I everybody like talking about him disappointing last year. I'm like, yes, please talk about his disappointment. He's so disappointing. Don't take him back.
Don't take him.
Let
What a
me.
loser.
I
Yeah,
love disappointment. I'm used to disappointment in my life. Allow me to. Yeah, I just absolutely love, like 91% zone contact last year. The XBA was 260, I believe,
come
if I'm
on.
remembering off the top of my head. Yeah, exactly 260.
Nailed it.
I don't think there's going to be a lot of power progression here.
No,
Like,
and there doesn't have to be.
he doesn't strike the ball particularly hard. He can strike it, decent consistently, but there's some launch angle issues here. It's a
It could be
6-degree
four
launch
homers,
angle.
right? It could go down too. I don't
I
want to pretend that
I
there's
have him
like
for
anything
7.
here. Yeah,
I have
that's a
for
repeat.
yeah, 7 home runs, 35 stolen bases, a 260 batting average, good amount of runs. But I think like this park plays perfectly for a guy like him. We talked about like this park does not play well necessarily for home runs, but it does
Hmm.
play well for hits. And
For
he makes a
literally
lot of
everything
contact.
else. Yep.
He's fast. Like I think we could see not just like, hey, like he's going to go back to the mean, but like I think there's a lot more upside in the batting average. And I think like it would not shock me if he got lucky in terms of like his BABIP as opposed to unlucky. And we're talking about a guy who hits 280 with like 35 to 40 stolen bases and like, those 6 to 7 home runs, but a lot of runs scored because I think Kansas City's going to be pretty good.
The only thing I want to point out on the runs scored, because I'm sure somebody would clip us on this. He got to lead off a bunch last year, 100
Yeah,
games, and
probably
that
not going to be
helped.
like this year.
And that's not going to happen this year with Jonathan India there. Now, Jonathan India
Gets
has
hurt a
health
lot.
issues, right?
Yes.
So there could be some opportunities there, especially if he's playing better. But I just want to be clear that like you can't fully expect an 84 run repeat, but I'll take 70 because I think the
Yeah.
batting average will make up the difference, and you could get upwards of 45 steals.
And
So there's
I
enough
projected
there.
70. I
Okay,
projected
so that's
70 runs.
perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, I'm fully in on Maikel Garcia. Again, I did like him last year, and I took the steals. They were fine. I'm really geeked at this price point, 214 here for
Yeah.
sure. All right, so then Connor Norby, we were not particularly fond of being in that lineup. It's just terrible. We said Brendan Donovan, steady Eddie, solid if unspectacular. Jamer Candelario, I don't remember what we said. That was on the first base preview. That was ages ago, and I don't think that is. Oh, it is legit qualification. Okay, so he's 20 games at both there. Pick 309. There was expectation for him last year, and I helped fuel that. I was pretty excited about him going to Cincinnati because anyone going to Cincinnati is exciting, and it didn't go well. I mean, it was a disaster season for Jamer Candelario. Was it just a transition year that went awry, and you take your 20 homers, but with a 250, 225 average? Can he get the average back up? Not that he's an average guy, but he had 251 the year before. Actually, I guess he bounces around. Check this out the last 4 years.
Yeah.
271, 217, 251, 225. So he goes where his BABIP goes. In the 2 down years, Jamer Candelario's BABIP was 257. In the 2 up years, it was 333, 292. So I guess you're spinning the wheel on that, but at pick 309, do you really care?
No, I don't think you care. Because as long as he's healthy, he's playing. You know who Candelario kind of is, right?
Who?
This is Mike Moustakas. Like,
Yeah.
and we love
Yeah.
Mike
Yep.
Moustakas, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I don't have a problem with him, especially at this price. Like I wasn't
back
in on him
in.
last year, but I think at this price, like it is a pretty good opportunity for you to buy in at an affordable price here.
And those 20 homers came in 112 games. So Cincinnati did help because he hit 22 homers in 140 games the year before. So if you give him the same plate appearance volume as he had that year, it would have been 25 homers, which, that's not like a ton more there, but that would have been a career high. So he was pacing toward a career high. He did miss a bunch of time, and then the average got sapped by the BABIP. But yeah, I'm back in on Jamer. I'll take my chances with the BABIP if it doesn't come through. Okay, I got kind of a bench guy that I'm spotting in here and there at pick 309. But if it does come through, I've got a gem that's playing my corner every day, and I'm happy with that. Christopher Morel, things just went really poorly. By the way, Eric Longenhagen and I are bringing back the Prospect podcast this year. We did it 2 years ago, and we did 6 hours between the AL and the NL. Folks, we're blowing through that. We did 2 hours on the AL East yesterday. We went so deep. We're going to be doing 6 of these episodes. It's talking about legit prospects, meaning that they're actual prospect eligible, fringe guys who are still in that prospect zone, like a Christopher Morel, and even some guys who are long graduated. I got him to talk about Dylan Carlson, y'all. That's how much of a freak I am. These pods are going to be dope. I'm very excited. We'll have the AL East one out soon, so stay tuned for that. But Morel, we both acknowledge, like, he's just not going to fix those holes. So you're always hoping for like a 220 average. Like that's just really the upside. He strikes the ball well. There's pop. There's a little bit of speed, but like it's hard to get super excited about Christopher Morel. I will say this though, the park, it's a minor league park. So that
Yeah.
could be fun. And then Joey Ortiz, we discussed at second base. So let's go to Max Muncy, unless you have anything on Morel or Ortiz.
No, I mean, the thing about Morel, I think we talked fairly glowingly about Ortiz as kind of just a cheap accumulator type.
Yeah, that's exactly what we said.
If you're a Morel believer, this is the time to buy, right? Like, as much as I'm not a Morel believer and I'm not going to buy,
Mm-hmm.
um, if
280.
you, yeah, if you are, it's pick 280. Like and like he is moving to that park. He's dual positional eligible. Like, I totally get like wanting to take the gamble because the gamble right now is really affordable. So like like I said, I'm not going to necessarily do it, but I think the people who were drafting him higher last year, now if you're still a believer, go for it. Like, now's the time.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's totally fair there. If you liked Morel, jump back in here, see where it can go, plan around the batting average, and take your power and speed there
Yeah.
from Christopher Morel. All right, let's talk Max Muncy, a true third baseman here, the only one we have not discussed at another position within this tier. It's a cheap way to get into the Dodgers lineup, and I do like things like that, right? Like the ability to get into one of the better lineups post pick 200. Sometimes that can be difficult to find guys, but this is a competent player who's going to be batting still in the middle of that order. Pick 5. What am I saying? Lineup spot 5 there. At least that's where we have him penciled in behind Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Teoscar. So the RBI opportunities will be remarkably plentiful. He didn't play a ton last year, 73 games. He went 15, 48, 232. That's pretty standard Muncy. Like that, if you extrapolate that out, what are we expecting this year? He's 34 now, so the age is starting to creep up. Pick 250 seems okay, though.
Yeah, I mean, 15 home runs in 290 plate appearances is 30 home runs in a full season, right?
Yep.
And I don't think you can project Muncy for a full season, but again, this is a really good price and a guy with a lot of upside if he stays on the field. I prefer him obviously in on base percentage leagues because the dude just walks a ton.
A
Uh,
ton.
we-
15%
yeah,
career rate is massive for Muncy.
yeah. So like, but even in your, as long as you can handle kind of the batting average sinkhole that Muncy can be, like his 232 batting average is very well supported by the 229 XBA, but he just makes a ton of hard contact when he does make contact. So I'm fine drafting Muncy as long as my batting average is already fine, and I'm just looking for cheap power.
Yep. I don't have anything really to add to that. I like where he's at. He is a build fit. So obviously if you need average in that 250 zone, you don't take Muncy. But if you need pure pop, you go for Muncy, part of the best lineup in the universe, and you can be happy with that. All right, so that gets us pretty deep into third base. We can finish. I think we can actually finish the hot corner on Monday and
Yeah.
continue on because we still have obviously a few positions. I mean, it's still February, so I'm not like panicked or anything here. But let me just pull up Lucas's rankings here. And yeah, there's going to be, oh yeah, the pure gambles is the next tier, and our boy Cabrizi's in there. And then the grab bag. And I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. So only 2 tiers there, and probably a bunch of discussed guys there too. I'm seeing Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Brooks Lee, Matt Shaw. Like there's some guys we've discussed, but there's definitely some guys that have some intrigue that I want to dive deeper on too. So we'll finish up the hot corner then. I'll actually have to get with you because ever since the new process for uploading the pod has happened, I haven't done it. You've done every single
Oh,
one. So I know there's not like you said it was not like crazy different than it used to be, but I need to figure out how to do it so I
yeah.
can get
There's just
the
a new program that you'll have to get, but once you figure it out, it's really easy. So we'll
okay.
we'll get together over the weekend and we can I can kind of
So
walk you through it.
I'll get that AL East up probably early next week, maybe Tuesday after our Monday pod. Are you going Sunday?
I should
When is
be.
Barf? Is Barf in the
Ours is
afternoon?
Saturday. It's Well, yeah, early afternoon, morning,
Okay,
11:30 draft, and I will be live streaming the board. I probably won't be talking on the live stream very much, but
that's
if
fair.
people want to watch the picks live, we've got Eno Saris, we've got Howard
Bubba.
Bender, Doug Thorburn, Bubba, like it is Jake Crumpler, pitcher list. Like it is a really, really fun group and a really, really good group.
And this is the birth of
So
Earth, right? This is where Earth
this is, yeah.
started.
Yeah,
Okay.
this will be our 7th or 8th season.
I'm
Um,
excited to be in. It
it's
just was not working timing wise to get into Earth TARF here in Texas, but it worked this year. They moved it to February. They might have done February last year too, but it's
mhm.
just working. And so I'm going downtown tomorrow. Very excited for that. I cannot wait to be a part of this huge Earth collective. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a blast with it. So, yeah. And I asked specifically on the time there, and I thought he misspoke, but I wasn't 100% sure. Bubba accidentally said 11 p.m. yesterday. I was like, that has to be 11 a.m. They're not starting at
I
11
would do
p.m.
that.
I know
I
you
would do
would,
that.
but
Yes.
I don't think
Uh,
everybody in the league would. That'd be pretty
no.
late to get started on something. And I was like, I think he might have misspoke there, but it was
We
the end of the
we'd be
pod. So
we'd be
go
going
ahead.
back to the days in which and I talked about this, I can't remember where, but so like when we first started Barf, this was like, pre all the other Earth leagues, and we did it old school style. There was no clock timer.
Mm-hmm.
We had a sticker board, um,
Oh,
which
hell yeah.
like if you've ever hung out with people like and Doug and Sammy Reed, like and Laura Michaels, who is still with us at that time, like
Rest in peace.
um
Love him.
that turned into like a 10-hour draft.
Easily.
uh and by the end of it, I don't drink or use any sort of substances, right?
Mm-hmm.
But everybody else does. And so I
So
won two
just
Earth
start
leagues.
stretching out.
Yeah, like I had a distinct advantage,
Right.
right? Because by the time we got to the end of the draft, people were putting stickers on sideways, and like
Vertical.
yeah, exactly. Like so, for me, there was a distinct advantage. Now we're on NFBC and we have to pick through the computer, so we don't do that, and the draft goes much much faster. But that being said, like 11:30 start time, 11:30 p.m. start time would be perfect for me because I'm used to being up till 3 or 4 o'clock
True.
in the morning. But no, we'll be at the Rec Room in San Francisco at 11. I believe the draft starts at 11:30. So if you want to come by and watch, if you want to come by and actually meet people, it's such a great group. Obviously let people make their picks and stuff, but yeah, we're happy to have people come in and kind of check out what we're doing, and kind of it's a great place to go have a beer if you are one of the people who partake. Our bar Todd, great dude. So
Yes.
definitely come by.
We're going to be in a random office building in downtown Austin. Come find us. Figure out which one. There's only 8 million down there that you'd have to
Good
go
luck.
into.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right, man.
People are just knocking on office
Just
buildings in
going.
Austin, going like,
Are
"Is
there any
Paul
dorks in
Sporer
here?
here?
Yeah. Is there any dorks doing a fantasy draft in here?
Have
No.
you seen a Rudy Gamble? Like,
Yeah,
got some
exactly.
opponents around?
They're holding our pictures. Hey,
Yeah.
you see these guys here? Yeah, they're gonna get arrested breaking into all these office buildings. But no, it should be a blast. I'm very, very excited to be a part of Earth. So we got those drafts tomorrow. You'll have your pod on Sunday, and then you and I'll be back Monday. Have a wonderful weekend, Justin. I'll talk to you later.
Take it easy.